You know how at the end of the previous editions of this video, I was all excited for the new anime coming out the following year, only for the quality to drop like every time? We gotta put my face on a giant like fell for again meme at this point. 2024 was an interesting year for anime. I felt like 2023 had a lot more bad shows, but 2024 had a lot more just mediocre shows. We have a lot to cover today, so let's not waste any time. Let's get into it. 2024, in many ways, was the year of the sequel. These were some of my favorites. Season 2 of the show earned itself a slot at number 4 in the 2022 Best of list. I have a rule in place that sequels don't make the top 10 unless they meet certain criteria. Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Part 2, for example, was ineligible to make the top 10 due to the fact that Season 2 Part 1 came out the year prior. Classroom of the Elite Season 3, however, was eligible to make the top 10, and while it was a good season, I definitely felt like this season was a significant downgrade in quality. It's still good, but I feel like this will need a great Season 4 to keep a lot of people watching. A good show that I don't have a lot to say about. It's cute. Don't bother looking up any of the porn for this show, it's all food on mail. Another 2022 list alum. I feel like this season wasn't as funny as the previous, and the ending was not as well executed as the original movie version, but overall, still a wonderfully animated and very funny show. The manga for the show has ended and left people wondering a question. Is this man on fraud watch? Well, at least in the anime realm, not for now. This season was amazing. I wait to see how the show develops from here, and if we'll get to see some developments. As I mentioned, Mushoku Tensei Season 2 Part 2 was not eligible to be on the top 10 this year, so it gets a spot in the sequel shoutout. However, dude, this season was so fucking peak. It feels like every time this show has a new season, the bar just keeps getting raised for how fucking good the story is. And we're not even at the most peak of moment, apparently. I'm so fucking hyped. Get on the fucking bandwagon right now, bro. Those were all the sequels that I wanted to shout out. Let's move on to the next category. Although I intended to watch more movies last year, I unfortunately didn't end up doing so. Much like my upload schedule. Here's the two I did end up seeing. I'm aware that I said that I would only include movies of that year. Well, I probably won't be following that rule next year either, but anyways, I had the privilege of watching this movie in theaters with Abe, along with the previous movie, and it was a delightful time. This series only continues to be one of my favorites of all time, and the long-awaited Season 2 is airing as of the release of this video. I can't wait to see some more peak fiction in the making. This movie was the definition of just fine. The animation was absolutely gorgeous, but the story itself was poorly written, full of inconsistencies and plot holes, and overall was mostly just a waste of time. I'm known for sitting through and watching slop, so if my impression at the end of all of that was just, I wasted time, then you know that shit is mid. Speaking of mid. You know what's funny is that no matter how many times I remember that I have seen the entirety of this show, including all of the OVAs and bullshit, I have no fucking clue what the show is about. This show is like the final boss of edgelord incel power fantasy shows. Once again, I am the man who will grit his teeth and watch the second season of a show no matter what. This show was so fucking boring. When I saw that Season 2 was coming out, I straight up said no and decided not to watch it. What is with all these Korean manhwa shows being so fucking disappointing? Also, thankfully, I am so late in writing this, because how did this utter piece of dog shit win Crunchyroll's Anime of the Year? Put the meme up!
Let's see. Hot dog, taco, hamburger. Hot dog, taco, hamburger. Hot dog, taco, hamburger. You only got 3 things.
次はお前の心に禁忌の鍵を入れてやる。
with the power of fucking song? Part of what I feel made 2024 such a down year was the quality of the shonen anime. Most of what I expected to be heavy hitters were just good to very good. This included. I liked the show, but honestly, after having watched season 2, it feels like the potential was here and was wasted really badly. The modern renaissance of old Rumiko Takahashi manga getting modern remakes of their anime continues, this time with Ranma half under the stewardship of everyone's favorite sweatshop factory, Mappa. This was just a great and hilarious watch, and my partner's reactions to the batshit stuff happening on screen whenever she would look up from her TikTok time was always a joy. Another show that I feel needs to show something really great during season 2, which just began airing during the making of this video, to make sure its hype doesn't die down. This one I feel was more enjoyable to watch than Loser Ranger was, but again, both need to buckle down to make a top 10 appearance. And speaking of the top 10, let's get into it. Number 10. Do you ever get reminders of just how old you really are? Spice and Wolf was a show that was big and airing during my original heyday of watching anime when I was a little kid. I turned 24 last year and we got a brand new adaptation of this story. So with both this show and the birth of my first kid, I'm officially achieving Unk status, and I have been invited into the Unction. It feels weird to cover material that is both so familiar yet so far from my view space. It feels as if I'm covering anime from long before I ever thought of or have the ambition of doing this for an audience on YouTube. Much like the main character of the show, Holo, I feel stuck in the past and yet have to embrace a new future. Spice and Wolf was one of the first big anime to adapt light novels, much like the melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya the year prior. This new version of Spice and Wolf aims to be more accurate to the novels than the originals were, even though the original anime didn't deviate heavily from the novels to begin with. Its first major point of differentiation was the inclusion of the animated adaptation of Book 4 of the light novels, which was not originally covered in the prior anime. Much like I did when I was a kid, I watched this dubbed, with the original cast returning, and I must say, Rina Palencia and J. Michael Tatum do amazing, voicing Holo and Lawrence as they did back in the late 2000s. While the interactions between Holo and our other main character Lawrence are definitely the main draw to the show, I don't want anyone mistakenly going into the show assuming it's a straight up romance show. If anything, this is more like Merchant Simulator: The Art of the Deal, with occasional romantic overtones between the two leads. In spite of the lack of real romance that goes on between our leads, this show overall to me felt like comfort. Especially in a year with so much happening and so much changing for me, to have something anchoring me and feel familiar, especially as I had just moved into a new environment while I was watching it, made it feel that much more cozy. It's exciting to see an adaptation of Spice and Wolf that will hopefully cover all the volumes of the light novels, and let's hope we get a season 3 after the already announced second season. Number 9. You know, ever since I started this 2 years ago, I've always wondered how the fuck would this show ever translate to being on the top 10. During last year's list, this show just missed out on being an honorable mention. You might have seen it during the number roll. Part of the reason I wondered about the event of this show ever making a top 10 is because, honestly, I can't really tell you why I like it. It's just good. It's just good. It's funny. It's well animated, despite everyone's least favorite thing of 3D anime. Honestly, the show is so well animated that sometimes I forget it's 3D CGI. Funnily enough, this last season was admittedly probably the worst of the 3, but it had the scene me and other loyal watchers have been waiting 3 years for. If I had to recommend a show to just turn your brain off to see funny jokes, raunchy jokes, and a very cute and well-written romance, it would be this. Number 8. You know, if you ever wanted an admission on my part that I am genuine brain rot filth, it's that I, Loos, in the year of our Lord 2025, admit that I like Konosuba. I am aware it's not funny. I am aware it's gooner bait to some. I am aware that people who enjoy the show have a collective brain cell of -4. I find it funny, I don't know why. What I find most hilarious about season 3 of Konosuba was that I genuinely didn't know what the fuck was going on for pretty much like all of it. I am aware Konosuba has a plot. Couldn't tell you one fucking story movement that happened in season 3. It's actually both so sad and simultaneously hysterical how much I turn my brain off to this show. It's like my brain has a secret mind control chip that turns on when I watch the show, and now things that made me laugh at 17 are once again the peak of comedy. It's a show that, in my opinion, could be enjoyed both dub and sub, as they are both excellently acted and written. But, oh well, call me brain dead, call me silly. But if you ever want to watch a series that is the ultimate brain rot, and I mean real brain rot, not this fucking engagement farming bullshit, then sit down and have a laugh. Number 7.
28.
Sometimes during these lists, there are shows that aren't on my radar at the start of the season, that I hear about through the grapevine, and then give a chance, such as Bocchi the Rock in 2022. This was a show that I heard about 4 or 5 episodes into its run, and I was pleasantly surprised. Dungeon Meshi is a show that has one of the most impressive hooks I've ever seen. A show that at its start bills itself as just about the cooking of various monsters your typical RPG party finds in the dungeon turns out to be one of the most well-written and surprisingly deep and introspective stories we've had in recent times. The show has a focus on cooking, so we learn all there is about the various monsters and creatures that our lovable gang encounters on their trek to the deeper stages of the dungeon. Through a format that usually has the gang eating the creature of focus in that episode, much to the delight of Laos and Senshi, and the chagrin of Marciel and Chilchuk. Speaking of the deeper stages of the dungeon, much like Dante's Inferno, the dungeon not only gets more difficult, but more terrifying the deeper you go. In a way, the show is a reflection of its eponymous dungeon, light and unassuming at the start, and by the end you are ready to cry about, not because, of a nightmare creature beyond your comprehension. The underlying and slightly unsettling theme present during the second half of the show is clearly a taste of what is to come in the future, and I am deeply excited for the already announced second season. Please don't let its number 7 rating fool you. If you were to ask me which anime from 2024 I would recommend, this is one of 3 that takes that spot. Do yourself a favor and give it a watch. Number 6. Blue Box is a show that asks the deepest question of all. Who gives a single fuck about badminton? I promise I will get to praising this show in a bit, but something that bugged me the entire time was that the show should have been about basketball and tennis, not badminton. As someone who was a multi-sport athlete for all my life, I knew people who played golf, tennis, like the traditional non-team sports, right? But who the fuck played badminton? I later learned that the offer was originally gonna make the main character, Taiki, play volleyball instead of badminton. And I feel that that would have been the wrong decision, as I feel the dynamic between the love interest, Chinatsu Kano, playing a team sport in contrast to Taiki playing an individualistic sport is a great angle to frame their relationship. Anyways, as someone who played sports as a young lad all the way to college, I've mentioned a few times during Loos and Harlock's run that I am not a particular fan of sports manga or anime. I would rather just watch the Brooklyn Nets be a complete unmitigated disaster than watch Brick Natsu at work. Dude, her form! But Blue Box did something that I felt wouldn't be possible in my watching of a sports anime. It made me relate to the characters in a sport that I had never played. As I was watching, it made me reminisce of my own high school experiences, both in sports and in love. On the sports side, I know what it's like to be a main contributing player in a team sport just like Chinatsu. I know the relentless work ethic and demand for success that Taiki subjects himself to. Taiki is one of the more fascinating characters I've ever tried relating to. I understand the relentless work and grind that it takes to be the best you could possibly be, but I can't understand him in probably the most important aspect of all, his sport. I only ever played team sports. The closest feeling I can get was to being a pitcher on the mound. But even then, I could rely on my defense behind me if I gave up a fly ball or a grounder was hit past the mound. This is where I can feel closest to Chinatsu. Working so hard to do your best, but still coming up short? It's the unfortunate reality of a team sport. I can only throw so many pitches. I can only score so many points. I can only catch so many balls. But I would much rather give it my all and lose than live with knowing that I half-assed it and didn't even give my team a chance to win. Speaking of doing everything you can to win and still end up losing, love is much like a sport as well. My favorite character in Blue Box, funnily enough, isn't the two main characters, but Taiki's friend, Hina. Seeing her do everything she can to win his affection while maintaining her own life, her own goals and ambitions, is something that I admire so deeply. But sometimes you just don't win. You can't force people to fall in love with you. Something I've learned the hard way. The entire saga and arc of Hina's confession and subsequent failed courting of Taiki takes up pretty much the second half of the first season, but it was such a great watch. Taiki is in love with Chinatsu, and she has something in her heart for him as well. But the only way to fall in love is to nurture and grow it, like a flower. You can't pour too much water and hope it'll become a tree one day. If this was just a romance show, I felt that all that would have been needed to conclude was Taiki and Chinatsu getting together. But this is sports romance. We have a goal, goddammit, and that's winning a natty. Don't miss the ride to the championship. I'll see you all for season 2. Number 5. I am a big fan of the show Hyoka, so when I saw the summer anime chart had an adaptation of another one of the author's works, I was very set on watching it. Shoshimin is a show that does its best to show, not tell. It's atmospheric, it's stylish, and the biggest hook of all are our two main leads, Jogoro Kobato and Yuki Osanai, two characters who aren't dating, but wouldn't deny it if they were asked about it. In character dramas, the chemistry between the lead characters is one of the most important things, and it's done so excellently here. We are let into some of their combined history as to why the two are now inseparable, but not enough to gather the whole picture. We know that Kobato's tendency to be too pushy into other people's matters from his boyhood dream of being a detective is what has led him to be in a pact with Osanai for one simple goal: to be normal. Whatever it is they've been through, clearly they don't want to repeat it, and so they form a pact to hold each other accountable and help the other be normal. In other words, helping each other how to become ordinary. But human nature is unavoidable, and the two get caught up in solving mystery after mystery. Their relationship, a very glaring example of how flawed they both are. Seemingly altruistic in the effort to help others, to help each other, but in the end, it's all selfish. Unable to remove themselves from what makes each other fundamentally themselves. Season 1 ends on such a sour note that honestly, I am so impressed by and commend so deeply. Sometimes we don't get the outcome we expected, and the gall and confidence to do so is something that I think sets up perfectly for Season 2, which has already finished airing as of the release of this video. If you love mystery solving and fantastically done character dramas, this one will be right up your alley. Number 4. This is another show that, much like Dungeon Meshi earlier, I didn't have on my radar to begin the year. What I found when I tuned in was one of the most funniest, well-animated, and addicting shows I've seen in years. I'm serious. After watching episode 1, instead of going about my day, I binged the rest of the series in one go. Just like how I talked about giving it your all and still losing during the previous entry, this show goes on to give you a view into what happens when you lose. Accurate. Having the will to actually ask someone out when you're unsure of your chances is one of the most nerve-wracking, harrowing, and scary things one can do. But you have to. Otherwise, you won't be able to move forward with or without them. The three main girls in this show react very differently to being rejected, from destroyed to hurt to
目が合った瞬間なんとなく視線で語ったりポイントカード共有してたりスマホの着信音が一緒だったり最後は何を言うてもなく二人一緒に帰ったりもうあれよ完全にちょっとしっとり気に入った新婚カップルや
I'm sure it'll be fine. With three girls having such wild and animated personalities, it's good that our main character not only serves as the comedic straight man, but has a completely normal life, like his sister, for example.
例えば今日先生を除いて何人と話をしましたか
5人かな
5人
This show is one of the best uses of your time you can spend watching. It's gorgeous to look at, heartfelt, and most of all, hilarious. Please give it a go to catch up for Season 2. Number 3. In a year I felt was disappointing for shonen, one stood above all as the marquee show of 2024. Director Fugi Yamashiro made his directorial debut with the all-star team at Cizaro, and Kensuke Ushio as composer for one of the best adaptations we've seen in a bit. I am a noted Tatsuki Fujimoto simp, so when his apprentice Yukinobu Tatsu's work started getting recognition, I kept a close watch on the pulse of the hype surrounding the manga until it was announced they would be getting an anime, and animated by the wonderful Cizaro no less. And what they did was make an absolute banger. Knockout performances by the vocal cast, stellar musical score, and a story so well written that I was left floored several times. The most fun aspect of Dandadan was a personal one. I have been an anime fan for almost 20 years now. It's integral to me and the story of me. This was the first anime my partner watched from start to finish. A fact that I was reminded about when I was in a rut trying to write the script, which makes me think of how awesome it must be for this show to be one of your first experiences, because even as a seasoned veteran of the waifu wars, this was such a breath of fresh air. You can definitely tell Yukinobu Tatsu has worked with Fujimoto because this show is such a mindfuck sometimes, but in the best way possible. The entire plot sounds like something someone made while under the influence of a cocktail of drugs so absurd you'd question how they even function, or after one episode of Rent-A-Girlfriend. It comes from such a uniquely fresh place, weird and stylish, but well thought out, and clearly so much love has been poured into it. Not only by Tatsu-sensei, but also by Cizaro, who went beyond the extra mile for this adaptation going free-run levels of fleshing out the story and exposition. A 7-page chase scene in the manga? How about one of the greatest chase scenes in the history of anime set to the fucking can of all things? When I write the script for these, I often think about the show in the large scale, the big picture. But much like the first episode of season 1 of Oshinoko, Dandadan has one episode in particular that stands out to me as not only one of the best episodes of 2024, but maybe a contender for one of the best single episodes in the history of anime. Episode 7. This one was so powerful that not only did my partner start crying, but we both sat in silence for a few minutes after it was over to try and just process everything. The only thing saving us both from full-on sobbing being the silly ending song playing immediately afterwards. Everything from the absolute god-tier fight scenes, the relationship between Momo and Okarun, the amazing side characters, the ability to turn from a super sincere scene to hilarity, and then to absolute hell in an instant. Everything about the show is excellent. If I had to pick which anime was the objectively best in 2024, hard to argue with this one. I smell some peak in the making, boys. Let's all sit down and enjoy the cooking. Number 2. I have waited for the day when ReZero would make its long-awaited appearance on one of these top 10s. This season was a slight step down in quality than season 2 in terms of story, but I feel with just how much character development occurred during that season, it was to be expected. Instead, what this season does to make up for it is bring back the fucking Avengers, bro. Everybody who is of major story importance, they're back, baby. This almost feels like in a superhero movie, when all the heroes get together in the end to fight the big bad. Subaru, Amelia, and Bayako, Crucia's team, Anastasia's team, Felt's team, and Priscilla's team. In turn, not only are all the heroes here, but we have fucking villains aplenty. We got Don't Stick Your Dick in Crazy, Really Don't Stick Your Dick in Crazy, Control-Alt-Delete, and P. Diddy. Episode 1 was an astounding hour and a half long, but the best portion to me was during the ultimate battle of the season, which pulled a Hunter x Hunter Chimera arc deal and went episode by episode depicting the different battles and events occurring all at the same time. The craziest thing is, despite how awesome this season was, it, much like season 2, feels like a setup to a much bigger thing. ReZero is a show that just does not stop raising its level of expectation, and I can't wait to see how the next season plays out. And finally, number 1. Few stories feel tailor-made. We consume, we digest. We envelop ourselves in works of art, and we attach ourselves to them. This, however, this movie, is not a story I have attached myself to. This story is not one where I get attached to everything and adore it. This story is me. This story is mine. This story was made for me. I'm about to get into heavy spoilers throughout this one, so if you want to avoid anything, you can click the next section for my send-off. If you want to know what my thoughts are in a very short, brief succinction, it's a masterpiece. Now, let's get into it. Nearly 4 years ago, my best friend, Harry, passed away at the so dearly young age of 20. So much has happened since that time. So much I've done. So much I've grown and gone through. It's a bitter sting to know every day that my partner in crime isn't here to help me. This section of the video is less of a review and more just an emotional connection. If you wanted my thoughts on this as a movie, like I said, it's a masterpiece. Beautifully animated, gorgeous and touching music, and incredibly well acted. I originally got to watch this movie in a small get-together with some of the people closest to me in my life. I knew walking away from that viewing that I would have to watch it again. I knew that it was a fantastic film, but I needed to watch it again to connect a thread we all noticed in watching this piece of absolute cinema. This is a story about me and Harry. This story is a direct reflection of the life we live together. I don't know if I necessarily believe in the term of soulmate, but if I ever had a platonic soulmate, it was Harry. This film showed it to me on my second viewing, this time alone in my room. When the emotional climax hit, I started bawling, crying. During the whole run of this film, I didn't just watch our two leads. My mind played back countless hours, memories so deeply valuable to me that by the time I reached that point in the film, I was no longer viewing just a normal film. I was watching my life again. The feeling of being with someone for so long, day and night, working endlessly and tirelessly together, covering up for each other's mistakes, handing off the work, the joy of success, the agony of failure, the serendipity of completing your work and knowing you'd have to start all over again with the next project tomorrow. That is what Look Back does better than anything I've ever seen. And it makes me feel something that I've known to always be the case. When you tell the stanzas of your life, will all those who loved you not be there? I connected with this movie because it reminded me not just of a fallen friend. I connected with it because it told my story. I connected with it because this was the life I had. And towards the end, it gave me visions of a life I wish I could have gone to live. But you can't change the past. So often we string our friends along to do things we wish for them to experience, often rushing in head first without a care in the world, knowing you'll have all the time to do everything you've ever wanted to do. It becomes not only heartbreaking, but so deeply, maddeningly awful to feel, knowing that you won't be able to accomplish those things. Dreams and movements that you wanted to accomplish remain just that, ideas, written down or in your head that you know won't ever be fulfilled. But you keep going. You have to keep fighting to make sure that every day is lived to the fullest. I feel like I love and appreciate my friends so deeply, and yet when Harry was taken from the world, I felt like I could have done so much more. I obviously hurt over it to this day, but I refuse to let myself be trapped with guilt. I want to live. I want to live the life that he never got the chance to accomplish and finish the dreams he won't be able to. So I implore you to watch this movie. Maybe it will affect your life like it has mine. Know that you will always have someone in your corner. There's always a reason to keep fighting on. And remember to cherish those people you're holding hands with behind you. Keep going. No matter what. Keep the faith and keep it pushing. And every now and again, don't forget to look back. And that was my best of anime list for 2024. I know this video is coming 7 months late. Hey, it's been a hard year. Truth be told, for a large portion of the year, I had planned to retire. Yes, I had planned to say goodbye to the YouTube game for a while, but in the process of making this video, I decided against that. I won't be making any more huge videos the rest of the year, but I will be making monthly uploads, mostly Loos and Harlock compilations. I have a ton of life stuff to update you guys with, but I plan on doing that during next month's video. 2024 was honestly such a mediocre year for anime, and being honest, 2025 hasn't been that much better, but I do hope at least the summer and fall slates make up for what has been a pretty disappointing year for anime again. There's a ton of things I want to do, and I'm determined to make 2026 the year I had always envisioned for this channel. So I deeply hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun YouTuber shit. Catch you later.